for tomorrow. But we're going to have some storm chances, one of the many headlines we're looking at as we go throughout this week, and we'll discuss in more detail here in the Room Doing Weather Center through this broadcast. But I want to start off with something brand new for you. North Mississippi Storm Chasers has been doing such a great job on their camera network here across North Mississippi. The only place, of course, you can find that with them and here with us on Mississippi Live Weather. This newest one in Boonville on the south side of town, looking back toward the southwest, looking over a little bit of water there. And just an absolutely gorgeous shot out there. 79, measure of moisture low. But that's going to come up a bit more over the next 24 hours, and rain and storm chances north of Boonville, more significant back in northwest Mississippi as well. Storms are back in the forecast for your Tuesday. We do anticipate that we're going to probably have more as we head toward Wednesday as well as Thursday. I think still could have some lingering rain and storm chances there. I think Wednesday is probably going to be the peak of our threats over the course of the next few days here. Discussing that and timing that out in more detail here in a couple minutes. Storm Finder will help us to evaluate the strength of how strong some of those thunderstorms could end up becoming. We'll show you that as our strike model, exclusive here to Mississippi Live Weather, helps us to do that evaluation and time out with the highest resolution modeling. You can get that far out here. But looking at our first 12 on our hour-by-hour forecast, dry this evening, 79 still at 7 p.m., 67 by 9, 62 as we look toward midnight under what should be, again, mostly clear skies. I start making my arguments for limited rain chances early in the day tomorrow. Most of us are probably not going to see much initially. Our chances get a lot better as we look toward the latter part of the day and northern and western portion of the state. Right now out there, 79 temperature in Tupelo, 78 degrees in Water Valley, 80 as you can see out there in Clarksdale. The Delta, where moisture is getting a little more significant, but still patchy for a lot of spots. As you can see, dew points flirting with the 50-degree point. These are going to come up a lot more the next couple of days, which is why the source region for storms developing, rather than trying to move in from someplace else, which has been the case the last couple times we've had storms, and we've said, hey, could they be strong to severe? They should develop overhead on Wednesday. That, again, our most significant threat, and we'll break that down in more detail here in a minute. Wide shot shows that back out here on the plains, that's where there's a lot more moisture coming right out of the Gulf there for locations back toward the west, and where the storms are more likely in the near term. For today, for example, as you can see here, looking at Mama Justice Doppler radar, not much out there across the entire region. I mentioned that storm threat there, that severe weather risk for today out on the plains, up closer to a front that will be one of the interaction points for our storm chances as it moves closer to us. The severe weather risk for tomorrow still primarily back to the north and west, and we'll dig into all the components of this here in a minute. Hail, even a tornado threat that does extend into our area, and damaging winds. That is our peak threat for tomorrow. I think it's possible we could see some sort of expansion farther east on one of this, maybe this level 2 risk, I think up here in the Tennessee, looking at some of our latest projections in here, and perhaps even deeper into our area. One of the things, again, we'll evaluate using that Storm Finder, a Mississippi Live exclusive here in a minute. For us, our peak threat, our most likely time frame that most of us that watch here will be able to see severe weather, is where most of the Magnolia states under a severe weather threat, level 2 out of 5, for your Wednesday. Now, it's possible that this could be upgraded to a greater concentration, a greater number of reports. We're working to assess how that could play out, but I think there's certainly a possibility there as well. So peak threat Wednesday, be planning accordingly as far as that is concerned. I mentioned this just a moment ago here, kind of on the wider shot. You could see some of the components that front up to the north, one of the things, but high pressure down in the Gulf, another. That's going to, again, bring more moisture up here. As you can see, more of the cloud cover starting to work its way northward, mainly out on the plains where those storms are strong for now, up closer to that. So we stay partly cloudy at worst. And then the first of those chances for rainfall starts to get a little bit closer. You can see those back out there toward Fayetteville, Arkansas, moving toward Clinton and Jonesboro, north of Little Rock. This batch of storms will eventually kind of clip the northwest portion of the state, and there's some question to how strong those will be. 8 o'clock in the morning, it's not impossible we could still have one that is in the strong category, which is why, of course, you'll want to check out Maggie tomorrow morning for updates on that starting at 6:30 a.m. So as we look over the course of the next 24 hours, we're going to start off with about 56 tomorrow morning, 20% on that rain coverage there. We're 66, though, by 9 a.m. You can see we keep that overall coverage pretty limited tomorrow, mainly the northwest portion of the state, northern tier of counties here that we cover on Mississippi Live, most likely to see some of those. And then close to 80-degree point for the high temperature, somewhere middle 70s to upper 70s, and a few spots above the 80-degree threshold. We'll look city by city at how warm we're getting coming up here in a couple moments. And of course, we're also breaking down those severe weather chances. As we time those out, we're really targeting, of course, Wednesday as that peak potential. How do the tornado, hail, and wind threats stack up with this? We're tracking that here in 60 seconds from the Room to Room Weather Center as Mississippi Live Weather continues right after this.
Room to Room's birthday party is going on now. Come celebrate with us. Thousands of dollars in free gifts, cash, spa treatments, shopping sprees, and even a chance to win your entire purchase free. It's a celebration you don't want to miss. And there's no party like a Room to Room party.
Looking for a place to finally call home? At Tupelo Home Center, we make it easy. From finding the perfect home to making financing a breeze, we'll take care of everything. Your new home is closer than you think. Pre-qualify today at TupeloHomecenter.com.
We can see the lowering. We're going to have a good shot at that as it approaches the Rienzi area. Tornado warning now issued. We'll do a push alert behind the scenes for folks here up here in Alcorn County. Rotation on this thunderstorm. We're increasing to the point back into Tippah County as well, where the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for your locations.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovehon.
Well, this is the way we like to see Mama Justice Doppler radar. Clear, dry at this point, but more storms on there expected for tomorrow, and certainly the chances ratcheting up as we look toward Wednesday. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lovehon, and we're waiting a moisture return that will continue to increase the likelihood of us seeing some of those strong thunderstorms and severe weather. But outside, right now in Amory, it's nothing but clear skies in Monroe County. Thank you so much, of course, for joining us here on Mississippi Live and all your support down there in Monroe County. Beautiful blue skies as far as the eye can see on our North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera there. Not a ton of moisture, though that will increase. High clouds and some very small lower level ones. One of our newer cameras out in Calhoun County coming in 79 degrees. That wind south and west, starting to bring that moisture up at about 12 miles per hour. But still dry this evening and beautiful weather for all of your evening plans. Our Phoenix Building Solutions camera there in Oxford, 77, again with those breezy southerly winds as of this evening. And, when we look at the different severe weather components, we think Shelby out there in the Delta, Cleveland, Shelby, Tunica, back up towards South Haven, you're probably more likely to see some stronger thunderstorms tomorrow. You can see the winds already cranking a little bit stronger, making our camera bounce around just a little bit there. And that dew point slightly higher there as well. Severe weather thoughts and threats and impacts. Confidence is not extreme on this, but I think there's a chance we're going to see some isolated tornadoes out of this for your Wednesday. Storms again developing overhead. That's probably our peak threat. That's not to say we don't have a severe weather threat for tomorrow. We will discuss that. Just for a lot of us, the peak concentration of threats, including damaging winds, tornadoes, and hail, most likely is look toward Wednesday. And with storms developing overhead and kind of developing along a frontal boundary, heavy rainfall could lead to some localized flooding as well in this setup. Here is Storm Finder. Again, this is something you'll find only on Mississippi Live. It allows us to look at the intensity of thunderstorms, the likelihood of thunderstorms occurring, and you kind of can see in the background there where the kind of future radar is. We combine those things to kind of assess our threat using our exclusive strike model. This is Storm Finder, something you'll see only on Mississippi Live. So the severe weather threat, the storm threat back out there on the plains for today. And while the chances, again, storm chances overnight early tomorrow do clip closer to us, not quite as much lightning with this, at least initial round here showing up in the morning. So you can see 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, a little batch there. More that are somewhat stronger from Memphis up toward Covington, Tennessee, and Dyersburg by around 9:30. So this is something that our meteorologist Maggie McCauley will be watching tomorrow morning, starting at 6:30 a.m. Any issues that we have out there? And again, confidence in this particular projection, verifying. She'll have at 6:37, 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. She's on Monday through Friday, helping you track those. Make sure to check out Mississippi Live Weather this morning on our meteorologist Maggie McCauley for any issues and updates that we have here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And we're going to show you a couple different versions of Futurecast here. Our strike is more aggressive, tends to be more aggressive, but that means it also can sometimes catch the kind of plausible worst case scenario. Notice through noontime here, some of those thunderstorms developing as far south as maybe Holly Springs and up close to the Corinth area. but not a ton of lightning out of those. So while that in particular projection shows that batch of storms moving eastward, you can see the purple starting to increase here, even where storms haven't yet formed by 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, sending that these spots are going to be more likely to try to develop some thunderstorms. And that's what happens out here into Arkansas. So these oranges that you see, if I look on this two-dimensionally, that's, you can't really, exactly see that they're kind of peaks. It shows us concentration of lightning strikes, where lightning is occurring more consistently. We have a lot of turbulence in the atmosphere, and thus more likely to see storms, and potentially storms that could be severe. So a site there that indicates some strong to severe thunderstorms out here in eastern Arkansas, 6:30, 7 o'clock for tomorrow evening. Now, it does have that initial wave trying to collapse as it approaches the Mississippi and Arkansas state line. One of the reasons why that severe weather risk doesn't extend as deeply into our area, but still, some of these, another wave of those up here very near the Tennessee state line. So it would not take much of a shift to have this be a bigger deal for Hernando or Holly Springs or Ripley or Corinth or Iuka or Boonville for tomorrow evening. But by late tomorrow night, this batch of thunderstorms does roll in, largely trying to collapse as it approaches, which is why this is not a high-end tornado threat. Still could have lingering hail and wind, and even a limited tornado threat there into the overnight hours of early Wednesday morning. Now notice the purples picking up here as we look toward Wednesday. Wednesday is our peak threat for severe weather, and we'll go through the different components of that here in a minute. But as you can see on Storm Finder, by 5 p.m. Wednesday, this does show thunderstorms primarily back to the north and west out here, Dyersburg, Tennessee, back up towards Searcy and out into Arkansas. Notice as we head between 5:30 and 8:30 how this just goes wild with lots of thunderstorms. We will use our triple threat to get into the nitty-gritty details of this coming up at 6. But what you can clearly see is we have nearly constant lightning in an area where the purples indicate a high chance of us seeing storms. And if I were to dig down there and show you the individual thunderstorms on here, they would look strong to severe. So this is why I think we have all forms of severe weather as a possibility. Damaging winds, tornadoes, and large hail on Wednesday. It's not the highest threat we've ever seen, but it is one of the more significant threats that we've had so far this year. So I would be on guard, preparing ahead, thinking ahead. And now is the time, before we dig any further, to be knowing, of course, how we will find out if we're in danger. Weather call should be on your list. It will call you if there's a tornado warning issued for you, call you back if it's confirmed, call you if there's severe thunderstorm warnings for large hail, damaging winds, and call you for flash flood emergency. So it's really, if you sign up with that QR code there, at least get more information. One of the things that you need to be considering on your list of ways to build your armor, whether it's Weather Call, the Mississippi Live Weather app, of course, which you can use those QR codes to find there. You can subscribe to us on all the different social medias, and that's great, and we appreciate that. But just know algorithms dictate whether or not you see it if you're not paying attention. Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, we want you on all those. But ultimately, make sure you have a couple of what I show below me there to make sure that you are in the safest situation possible there. So Storm Finder continuing to again show thunderstorms developing, and the fact that we still have similar spots with heavy thunderstorms between 8 to 9 to 10 to 11:30 on your Wednesday evening is a sign that flooding rainfall could be a possibility as those storms exit into Alabama, even 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, a sign that severe thunderstorms, including even a limited tornado threat, will continue from Wednesday afternoon through Wednesday night after a lot of us would typically go to sleep. By Thursday, thunderstorm chances primarily south. Notice we don't have the purples as much up here in the North Mississippi, so thunderstorm chances, or at least severe thunderstorm chances, a little bit less likely, but you don't have to go that far south, down here toward Jackson, Forest, Meridian, where storms could still be heavy, arguably strong, the strongest, pretty clear cut there, even though we would show just as much red on them into Alabama, where our storm finder is showing the greatest potential. Still some rumbles here into Thursday evening, a possibility in the northern part of the state. But then as we head into Friday, the majority of that threat moving to the east of us. So let's again look through Futurecast, different version here, our HRRR, and we'll kind of stop it without anything over top of it to disrupt your view. Clearly, storms primarily back into northwest Arkansas overnight tonight, and the majority of those still north and west of us at 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So looking at low temperatures for your Tuesday, we're at 60 there in Senatobia, 64 degrees in Clarksdale, 62 Tunica, 63 in Cleveland, and coming in 56 in Houston, Amory, and Tupelo, about 57 degrees in Starkville and Louisville. Severe weather risk, as we've talked about here a moment ago, looking just at Storm Finder, pretty clear cut, back into Arkansas, up into Tennessee, most likely threats, And most of us kind of in that maybe, possibly, hopefully not zone where we'll have a more limited number of reports. Again, severe weather possible, but we don't expect to have as many reports as what we're more likely to see on Wednesday. So damaging winds, probably our peak severe weather risk that we'll see. Destructive winds, that'd be in excess of 75. That's probably not what these storms are depicting for Tuesday. Tornado risk, primarily back to the north and west, again, back out into Arkansas. That afternoon threat in particular, where some of these are more likely into evening, could be some strong tornadoes in that area. And so we're going to be watching that closely for you in Tunica, South Haven, Senatobia, back toward Clarksdale here, if this is pulled closer to us, which remains a possibility if moisture can come up just a little bit higher. That's probably our limiting factor. And our True Shield hail risk, primarily back to the north and west, in that pink and purple zone, pinkish purplish color there. That's where we could be talking about some hailstones in excess of 1.5 inches inside. That would be our most significant hail potential. So for your Tuesday, notice how that morning batch, it's up into Tennessee primarily 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning where those storms are the heaviest. Again, our HRRR is not our most aggressive projection. It's what it's seeing, and this is an important note for tomorrow, is that we have dew points in the low 50s now. We're really going to have to ratchet that up. And I think for a lot of us, that will limit the storm and severe weather potential for tomorrow until late in the evening if something's able to cross over for our area. So looking here at high temperatures on your Tuesday, we're going 80. And again, most of the day for most of us will not include severe weather. 81 degrees in Houston, Bruce, 79 Tunica, 80 in Clarksdale, 82 there in Cleveland, 84 degrees back in Greenville. Normal this time of year around 80. So we're pretty close to exactly what we'd expect. Then into tomorrow evening, those storms becoming more plentiful, primarily back out to this north and west, closer to our front. Now notice also this front with the alternating red and blue here. That's a sign that it is in the process of trying to stall out as the warmer air is trying to hold its position. That's why this continues to be the spot where now we're to midnight, late Tuesday night, pre-dawn Wednesday morning, where those storms are likely heaviest up into Tennessee, back out into Arkansas. And again, a severe weather as well as a tornado threat that does persist into the overnight hours for those locations. As this line settles into our area, you'll notice heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and that at least limited tornado threat. We're 2, 3 o'clock in the morning here. So for folks up here, Olive Branch, back toward Bolivar, Tennessee, Corinth, Iuka, back toward Ashland, Holly Springs, and toward Tunica, I'd be making sure I have multiple ways to find out if we're in danger. That would be the Mississippi Live Weather app, weather call, code red if that's available in your area. But you want to be thinking layering those up. FEMA app is another one. But just remember, the reason I talk about weather calls, app data can always be filtered out, whereas if you miss a phone call, it's usually pretty obvious about that. So make sure weather call's in your favorites for that. Now, we're 6 a.m. here Wednesday morning. Here's one of the interesting things on how Wednesday will play out as far as storms are concerned. So storms are going to come off of that front a little bit, and they're going to leave kind of a boundary here. That boundary will somewhere be over top of North Mississippi and a focal point for additional storm development in the afternoon, as well as that front moving in. So for low temperatures there early Wednesday morning, we're 65 Grenada, 64 for Bruce, 66 in Houston. These assign, when you're talking near 70 for low temperatures, that's a lot more moisture arriving, and that will fuel those strong to severe thunderstorms on Wednesday. So as we go through Wednesday, notice the storms kind of diminish 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, yet you can still see this green line there. It's really interesting to me that still is relevant, not evident. There we go. Got the right E word. Because this, typically we're not going to see an outflow boundary on models showing up there, but that shows kind of that area where storms could eventually try to develop ahead of the front as well. So we don't expect to have a lot of strong thunderstorms during the morning, midday time period. Still could have some, and you know how sometimes those stronger high-end days, we do have that stronger round in the morning. That remains on the table as a possibility here. By noontime into the afternoon, though, storms, a few of those trying to get going 3 o'clock, but they're not going to really get going until we get a little bit later than that, very near where that boundary, wherever that ends up landing here, Eupora up toward around Corinth. I know that's a fairly large swath that I'm talking about here, but somewhere in there is where that boundary is going to end up forming, and storms will get going. But notice how still at 5:30, they're trying to test things. And you might remember, golly, was it last week where we tested the cap and then it didn't bust? And so we didn't have a lot of storms. And the next day, yeah, it was last week. I feel like it was last Monday or Tuesday. Either way, It's all starting to blend in. Either way, you know how we thought we'd get it? We thought we'd get it, and then they didn't really blow up. We didn't really have a lot. So looking toward Wednesday, in the afternoon, that could be the possibility, but we have this front here, and that will assure that as we go into Wednesday night, we're going to have storms, even if this lead batch doesn't develop. So for your Wednesdays, you can see here, most of the area, all the area under at least a limited severe weather risk, most of us out of that level 2 out of 5 severe weather risk, and that does include all of our Max South viewers down south in Forest and Philadelphia, and down there south of I-20, back toward the Jackson area as well. So we do have a severe weather risk, and I think damaging winds, tornadoes, and large hail all very much on the table as a possibility on this. But notice the timing. Unfortunately, we could have this as an overnight threat that extends into your Wednesday evening. Notice how just between 6 and 7 o'clock, how we have a greater number of storms that start developing out here. One of my hopes always in this scenario here is that we get too many storms. That might sound ridiculous, but if you get too many storms all competing for the same fuel, typically you don't get that standout storm. It's like if you, my wife hates this reference, but if you have 2 quarterbacks, do you really have any quarterbacks in football? You've got, oh, we've got a runner, we've got a guy with an arm. That's great, but don't you need just one quarterback? So typically, if we have a lot of different reasons to watch, we don't have the dominant storm. And that is our hope, that maybe we have so many that we don't have the dominant storm, because notice how this is just a whole bunch of thunderstorms. As that front gets closer and as that outflow lights up, here 7:30, 8 o'clock, we really quickly kind of develop a lot of these. And they all have those dark areas where we have the heaviest precipitation kind of falling out of those. And they will from time to time have some rotation. That one near Grenada looks like one. Those out in Alabama do as well. They have wide open flow from the Gulf of Mexico, which is always concerning, because if there's like some kind of flare up of thunderstorms down here, that can eat into the available fuel. These are going to have plenty of the fuel to work off of. And so the farthest south one of these that can still get going, we're going to have to watch, because it's going to try to hang on to that boundary. The upper level winds are going to try to carry storms along the boundary, and that can sometimes enhance the rotation on these. So I expect there remains a possibility of not just isolated tornadoes, but that possibility maybe we could see an isolated strong tornado Wednesday evening if one of these storms can get enough by itself and on that boundary. That's where we always get concerned. So this has the potential to be maybe that storm there south of Grenada moving toward Montgomery County, 9:30 or so, a strong tornado threat. And it might not be exactly that one. I can make an argument there, Hollandale. And again, this is a projection, so we're going to be refining the locations. Even at 6 o'clock, we'll use our exclusive triple threat to look at the storm rotation on this particular projection, and then I'll update again at 9 and 10 o'clock tonight. We'll have a new version of that as we kind of get a better and better idea. Now, by 10:30, 11 o'clock, again, we'll continue to have some severe weather threat with this into the overnight hours, which we might extend deeper overnight with some of that, because typically the storms would, start over front and move eastward quickly. These are going to be very close to the front, and there's very few thunderstorms south. So they should still have ample moisture, as long as there's just enough, residual, what we call CAPE, because of the heating of the day. I know we're past, obviously, the heating of the day. These thunderstorms still could be severe, maybe even midnight, maybe even after midnight. And if that's the case, the tornado threat, at least in a limited fashion, could continue into the overnight hours and pre-dawn early Thursday morning. Storms are weakening there, as you can see, 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, early Thursday, but we'll be watching that closely. And then behind this, additional rain and storm chances could try to flare up on Thursday, as you saw with our strike model a little bit earlier on. So as we look at that 7-day forecast here for a moment, we're at 30% on that coverage of storms on Tuesday. That might be overdone just a little bit. We have a severe weather threat. It's clearly not for everybody. Western and northern Mississippi most likely to have some impacts there. Arkansas, Tennessee, the peak threats. Now, Wednesday, we are in the target zone. It's right overhead. We have a 2 out of 5 severe weather risk right now. That will probably, as confidence increases, there will be a bullseye put in that of at least a level 3 threat, I think, assuming that what we just looked at with our strike model ends up being the way this plays out, where you have multiple chances there, just multiple opportunities for severe weather and tornadoes. Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, pre-dawn Thursday morning. Thursday, I'm at 30% on that rain coverage. I could have gone higher than that. And at 6 o'clock, we will look more at Thursday. Relatively drier, but still some limited chance of rainfall there. as we look toward your Saturday and your SEC baseball forecast. Again, looking ahead there toward this upcoming weekend. Carl Hogan there, of course, our sponsor. Friday, looking at 74, 79 by Saturday, and 84 degrees on Sunday there. A big series versus Auburn from Mississippi State at home. I believe they have that updated there. Of course, A&M coming to Oxford. 72, the first pitch temperature on Friday. Hoping it's dry, hoping we keep it clear there in Oxford. 78 on Saturday and 80 degrees on Sunday. I'm going to bring up our chat here behind the scenes and just appreciate everybody for watching us here all across the region, whether it's Corinth or all other locations there, Amory and Tupelo. Thank you so much for your support with us here on Mississippi Live Weather as we're attempting to warm you first and keep you safe. I love how I had a Freudian slip. I said warm you first because we got something that might warm your heart a little bit. Our family has gotten a little larger, and by our family, I mean our Mississippi Live family. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, was blessed, he and his beautiful wife, to have their first child this last weekend. Let me introduce you to Cruz, who is their baby boy born on Saturday, and they just made it home today, which blows my mind. I'm so excited for them to be able to bring him home. And so Gabe is in full-on dad mode this week, so it'll probably be Maggie and I covering storms. But just wanted to show you Jack Cruz Maynor, 7 pounds, almost 8 pounds there. I mean, come on. You got to admit, that's a shot there that warms your heart. So we're so excited for them and the way their family is growing. And so there's Cruz, again, the newest member of the Mississippi Live Weather family. Man, isn't he cute? So anyway, coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll be digging, of course, more deeply into the forecast. Triple Threat will help us look at rotation, hail, and wind with both the setups tomorrow and tomorrow and Wednesday, and whatever lingers into Thursday as well. We'll be breaking that down here in the Room to Room Weather Center. Of course, that's one of our exclusives here at Mississippi Live. And we'll take a little time to kind of try to answer some of your questions. If you have those, you can always get those to us on social media. But thank you so much for supporting us here, and for all of our sponsors for supporting us on Mississippi Live. We'll see you coming up here in a little more than 30 minutes at 6.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. We knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon